and we can check.
Yes, I see it.
I can see it now.
Excellent. So we are live on Facebook at the What's on It Elephant in Castle Facebook page with Laith Wallace, the co-founder of Hood Lessons. And I'm actually so pumped up about this. I'm just going to share it to my page because I want some of my friends to see it. So while I'm doing that, Laith, how are you, brother?
Hi,
I'm
Laith.
doing well. You know, during this time, it's a weird one because since we've all been home, there's the beauty of being at home a lot more, but the challenge of being at home a lot more, if that makes sense. You know, if you're not used to working from home all the time, I'm very fortunate. Like I've had years freelancing and working for myself, so I'm kind of used to it. But the difference now is that the government has said our children are not going to school. So the biggest challenge for me is now being at home with my 3 children and trying to get work done. And that's been the biggest challenge.
They might actually crash in here any moment.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
As soon as they hear Daddy's voice, right?
Yeah,
Laith,
because I had some meetings last week and they ran in, so I know it's going to happen again.
Laith, we met a few months ago. I think it was actually on the 15th of February. It was the day after Valentine's Day at your first ever Hood Lessons event, which I was an absolute privilege for me to be able to be there. And how I was open and welcomed by you and your fellows. Can you give us a kind of a 2 or 3 minute rundown of how you, Laith Wallace, has got to where you are now?
Yeah, so brilliant. Like for myself, my journey kind of started when I developed a condition at the age of 14, idiopathic rheumatoid juvenile arthritis. And from when I developed that condition, I really went to a low place because like all my friends were going out, having good times. And I was dealing with this condition that was making me bedridden. But little did I know that a lot of the friends that I had during that time were involved in a lot of bad things, basically. So some were in gangs, some were getting involved in like crime, some were doing like sleeping around, doing crazy stuff. And I almost realized that at the time, even though I was feeling the way I was feeling, it wasn't until later I began to see it in a different way. When I was at the age of 21, I had lost my faith because I, believe in myself. But I at 21, prior to that, I kind of lost my faith because I was going through this really hard time, always being bedridden, always in and out of hospital. But at 21, I really, from about the age of 17 to 21, I really wanted to become an architect. And I struggled to get into university. But when I got into university, the doctor said to me that you won't be able to start university that year because my condition was so severe that they had to do a hip replacement surgery on my left hip. And the doctor said to me that if you have this surgery, it was about the July of 2008, I believe. They said, if you do this surgery now, it's going to take you about 6 months to heal and you will have to learn how to walk again. And the doctor said to me that you won't be able to go to university because you need to start in the beginning of September. So if you get July, August, September, so it's not even 3 months because it was about the tail end of July that I was meant to have this surgery. And I remember speaking to my mum about this, and then she just prayed over me and she said, Laith, if you want to go to university, you can get there, you can do it. And where everybody else with the condition I've had takes minimum 6 months to heal, my body was able to recover and I walked into university. Even though I had crutches, I was still walking into university. And that was the first moment in my life where I began to reflect that, wow, there's something powerful when you really set your mind to do something, even when people say you can't achieve things. And that was like a beautiful start. And with 3 months later, funny story, there was a girl that I really liked while I was at university. And to impress her, she loved to skate, roller skate, like old school with the quads. That was her thing. She really loved to skate. And in Vauxhall in South London, there used to be a place called the Roller Disco, which was run by Choice FM. Now it's called Capital Extra. But back in the day, about 10 plus years ago, it was called Choice FM. And Choice FM had this roller disco and they would do it every week. So I would go out with this girl and some of our friends, but I would have to learn how to roller skate. But I thought I was recovering from this hip replacement surgery. But to impress this girl, I forced myself then to learn how to skate. So 3 months later, I was walking into university. And but let's say 4 to 6 months after that, I was actually roller skating in Vauxhall. And it was just, these big strides that my body was able to take. I remember going to see my doctor. He was a hip replacement specialist. And I remember telling him that I was skating, and the shock in his face was incredible, because he was like, what are you doing? How can you do this? Your hips made of titanium, like, you can't do it, and ceramic. And yeah, it was just an incredible feeling to see how my body was able to heal. And like, just the faith of my family and stuff really helped to change the environment in my home during that time, because I stopped being someone that was down and woe betides me about my situation, but I started to realize that, wow, you can really see things differently in life, you know.
I know you and Mel, just before we started this, you guys kind of had a bonding moment, because you both had some similar challenges in your lives.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing the way I had no idea about it, but it's amazing. I think you and I share, and a lot of people probably, this idea or this experience when our brains and our mind and our heart is kind of exhausted, whether with pain or trauma or whatever, our bodies will respond. And sometimes I think, given like the world we live in, sometimes it's easier for us to listen to our bodies than it is to listen to our spirit. And it seemed like for you mentioned like losing faith at 21. And so I'm wondering, what was your process of reclaiming or refinding whatever your idea of faith was? Was it through your body kind of strength, or what was that kind of journey?
So for me, like, what really helped me was that I had a strong community around me. They were always going to church and stuff. But what really, really helped me was that during that time, I had this weird perception in my mind that because of the way my body was, that people were seeing me differently. Like, they were seeing me as like crippled, or seeing me as, oh, Laith, you can't do something, so we're going to help you with that, or we're going to help you with this. And one of the worst feelings, nobody ever wants to feel like they're putting people out, or that they're a burden to anyone. But one thing that really, really helped me during that time is that I had a really good friend circle that didn't treat me any way differently. And I remember just after my operation, I was in my house for a minimum of about 3 weeks straight. I couldn't really leave my house at all. Not even to really go outside, because I was struggled to get onto the crutches. And all my friends just came to my house one after the other. I had some pastors visit me, spent all day with me. And it was just a relationship of them coming and visiting me, not trying to evangelize to me and share this or share that, but they were just being a friend and just being close to me. And it was in their example that really helped to mentally heal me, because part of healing, I've learned later on, is about releasing the endorphins in your body and having that really go, you know, on a high level, and having these good, happy hormones in your system. And it was really good friend circle. And it was then, while I was on my bed at a point, that I began to start researching more about what I believe, looking online, looking at the different types of faiths and religions. And then it just made me, over time, being bedbound actually was the thing that helped me to find my faith, if that makes sense, because I was forced to just read. If that, know.
So you managed, sorry, you managed to forge some amazing personal relationships. And I know in your bio, that's one of the things that you help people cultivate is personal relationships. What this kind of topic is about building healthy boundaries. So kind of what were the feelings when you were, so you know what a healthy relationship is and how it was built by people coming to support you, but kind of going forward in your life, how you have built personal relationships that are positive, and then how do you navigate through the ones that might be a little bit more detrimental? And then you see where I'm going on the boundary thing?
Definitely. So I start with negative relationships. I remember there was one point in life, sorry, you might hear my family. There was one point in life where I because I graduated from university, and one thing I didn't mention is that when I graduated from university, there was a recession. So when I studied architecture, and during the recession, architecture is one of the worst hit industries, because nobody's building, there's hardly any construction, always similar to what we're dealing with now with the coronavirus. And what happened was that when I graduated, I had to now freelance work and work from home. And because I was working from home, I decided to take up a contract with a guy that was based in America. And this guy that was based in America, as I began to work with him, during the last 4 months of me working with him, he couldn't pay me. And as a result of him not being able to pay me, he would say to me stuff like, oh, I can pay you, but I can pay you a bit later. And I think because of the type of character I am, I kind of take people at their word. And I didn't realize sometimes that can be a fault on my end. But I began to just take him at his word, and it just went day after day after day. Oh, I can pay you later. I can pay you later. I can pay you later. To the point where I was working 12 to 16-hour days. So because he was in America, I would wake up at about 8 o'clock. But by the time he wakes up, it would be about midday my time. So then I would then be in a situation where I'm working longer just to match the hours that he was doing in America. And then after 4 months, it was about the December of, let's say, 2013, 14, where, sorry guys. Yeah, it's about December, about the time where I basically collapsed from stress in my house. And I don't know if anyone's ever seen pseudo seizures, but pseudo seizures are when your body basically mimics the behavior of epilepsy, but you do not have the foaming at the mouth. So I collapsed from stress, and then I basically started to get pseudo seizures. And that was a result of me not basically defending my personal hours to say, I only work between this time. I can't work beyond a certain time. If you can't pay me, then I can't do any work going forward. And these were the things that I learned later on. But during that time, it was the thing that showed me, wow, if you put really good boundaries in place, not only does it help you mentally, but just physically, just your whole psyche, just everything about you begins to be in a more positive place, because you can really help yourself, you know.
Boundaries are always, sorry, go on.
No, I know, because I maybe you said negative. That was more of a negative side of not putting boundaries in place. But then later on, when I first got married, one thing that really helped me was that my wife, she really was able to see these aspects in my character, because they didn't really go, and I still kept falling into the same challenges over and again. But what my wife then began to do is say, all right, Laith, this is a red flag, you're seeing this here. And then she was then able to like stand up for me in a sense and show me where I was falling short, show me where I was repeating behavior of the past, and then show me how I could improve on that going forward. So that was really helpful as well.
Nick, do you want to say anything?
No, it's your turn.
Oh, is it? Okay. No, I think the thing with boundaries too is it's always such a work in progress, and sometimes it's so hard for us to see our own kind of negotiating our boundaries from a place of fear and insecurity, rather from like really building it from a place of strength and love and like empowerment. And I think oftentimes we can see boundaries, or people can let us see that boundaries are something that's selfish, and that we should be giving more of ourselves in order to accommodate whatever ideas of whatever relationships are around us, right?
Yeah, correct.
And so sometimes we have to have that negative experience of knowing what we can offer in like a really present way, instead of like our bodies collapsing on us yet again in order to tell us that something's not working, right? And I think it's really nice that you were able to have a partner in reflecting back to you. And I think that's what Retribe is. That's what your work is too, is like really the power of community. Because sometimes we can't see, right? We can't see our own selves in the kind of mess or pain that we're in. So we need someone to reflect back. Yeah,
correct. And I know for me, after I basically was able to heal, just back to my friends again, my friends after that, because they knew I didn't have money, I couldn't pay my mortgage with my sister, and that added to the stress.
Right.
And this was the reason why, like the stress of not being able to pay. And then I was after my operation, I was still getting what doctors called pseudo pain. Is it pseudo pain? What was the word they used? There was a term they used where you feel the pain of what you used to feel, but your body's not actually in pain. It's a weird one that they explained to me.
Like ghost pain or something.
Yeah, correct. It's like your body knew that it experienced it before, but you're not in that pain. You're just experiencing it as you used to. And the doctor said that was a compounding effect on top of the stress of not having the money to pay the bills and so on and so forth. And what really helped me is that my friends then put money together without me knowing, paid for me to have a ticket to fly to Jamaica. Because I used to live in Jamaica when I was much younger. And when I went to Jamaica, Andrew was there. Obviously, Nick, you know Andrew, and Melissa, I believe you know Andrew as well. Andrew was there with some friends of mine because they was at university studying at the time. And then I was able to stay with my friends and just being around the friend circle in another country, away from everything. And then the first week I went to my auntie's house and we went to the beach in Montego Bay every day, eating fruits outside, having an amazing time. And then the second week I was with Andrew and all my friends while they were there. And then, yeah, then I came back to the UK and I was like a new man. So it was an incredible time. And since that point, so you're talking about 2015, maybe thereabouts, I've never had an episode again. Never, not once.
Wow.
That's amazing. Those are amazing, like healthy boundaries and healthy relationships that you've been able to forge. One of the things that you guys kind of both talked about is like this idea of how self deals with boundaries. Now, one of my, I wouldn't say issue, but one of my kind of, it was an ongoing thing in my life would have been this people pleasing thing. And I used to think that I was people pleasing because, you know, I wanted to be helpful. But what I actually now know is like through all of it, it was because I was being selfish, because I just wanted people to like me. And in that, I had no healthy boundaries because I would just say yes to anything, lending money that I didn't have, or just doing things because of this sense of that I didn't care about myself very much. So in building healthy boundaries, like how much personal work do you have to put on yourself to actually know what self-love is and self-care is first?
Well, basically, what really was a key indicator for me was that a lot of what I'm, you know, in regards to self-work, basically, there was a fantastic book I read about 4 years ago called Boundaries. And it was given to me by my sister. And when she gave me this book, it was really incredible because it really showed me in myself where I was going wrong. And funny enough, Nick, me and you have the same kind of story. Then I would say yes to everything. Even my wife is like, Laith, why are you saying yes? You know, you ain't got the time. What's wrong? You know? And I would say yes because I felt bad to say no. But I began to realize that no is actually a power word when used in the right context. And sometimes by saying no to things, it actually makes you more desirable to people, so that people are like, wow, if they said no to me, then maybe I could work with him again in the future, but just not right now. And I learned to control the relationships that I began to have as I worked for myself first. When trying to deal with clients, too many clients, people think too many clients is a good thing, but if you don't know how to say no, too many clients is actually a bad thing. Right. And then there'll be people around me, and then there'll be certain people around me that knew of the skills that I had and wanted to, you know, use my skills for sometimes their own, you know, they wanted to build websites for themselves or something like that. Not in a bad sense, they just wanted to work on it. And then I would find it difficult to say no again. And if I said yes to it, then the pressure of trying to deliver for those individuals then became another factor, because then I would have to deliver on their time. Even if I'm doing it as a favor or at a reduced fee, then I'm still having to deliver on their time. And I'm learning, no, I should define the time that works for me. And if people don't want to work with it, it's fine. And if they do, then that's great. But still make sure you maintain the relationship and you're very clear on your boundaries as well. You know?
What I've heard both of you kind of mention, and I do this in my own practice, is the idea of like mentoring and mirroring. So I think what's really important for me with boundaries too is that if I have a good hold on my boundaries and I honor them, because sometimes it's very hard, especially in this kind of time where everything's heightened and everyone needs more support, but still really trying to honor your boundaries, you're actually leading with example. Of saying like, I need this to take care of myself so I can be more present for you when I'm with you, rather than being with somebody and then thinking about the 15 other things that are waiting for you or the things you've done before, right? It's really making time, the way I see boundaries anyway, is making time for yourself to be present, but also leading by example, which I think we can probably all agree on is that's the only thing we can really do, because none of us know anything for certain anytime. It's always changing. It's always in flux. So we only do what we can do with what we know in those times, right? Yeah, I wonder what you all want to add around mentoring and mirroring, especially around cultivating your own practices of boundaries and containment.
Oh man, like, I don't know if everyone, if you got iPhone, there's an app in your iPhone called Reminders.
Yeah.
And this has been like a saving grace for me. So before I started to just apply, just using basic things like a notepad or an iPad, I began to say yes to things and forget that I would have committed to doing something.
Okay.
And then I would get overwhelmed because I would be like last minute, oh yeah, I remember about that thing. And then instead of just being honest with the person to say, hey, I forgot or I can't do it, sometimes I find myself lying. And that at my core is something I don't agree to do. So to protect myself from being in a place that just goes against what I believe, I began to just put reminders in my phone. And I learned to, before I respond to somebody's message, I would always think I need to be urgent in response. But I learned to say, you know what, pause, go to your checklist, see what your checklist is or your diary or your calendar, and then respond. Versus I would always respond in the moment. I'd always feel like I need to be available for people. It comes back to Nick's point earlier about being a people pleaser. I'd always feel like, oh my gosh, so-and-so's emailed me or messaged me. I need to respond really quickly. But what I began to do is pause, check my calendar, check my diary and my reminders, and then give responses back to clients or people that I had planned to do work with. Because a lot of my intemperance, I should say, or my biggest challenges with boundaries was always around me doing work for people. And it began to become like a recurrent theme in my home, you know.
Right.
I
I like that idea of pause. Sorry, go on, Nick.
Yeah, I think in that journey of you know, from being like that people pleaser, which I've now found as being an extremely selfish trait, because you just want to please everybody because you want attention and you want love back. You want them to say, oh, Laith, Nick, they're great guys, they'll do anything for you. And then the detriment is that, like you say, you extend yourself, you lie because you can't achieve certain deadlines, you lie because you can't make certain meetings or dates or something. And I found late that a lot of this came from a fear, you know, this and one of those fears, like say a basic fear of abandonment or a fear of being alone. And because I was so scared, I was just overextending myself on all of these ways. And now I've got tools to help me deal with fear. And I think like that is the platform to help me build boundaries. So in terms of your fears, how have you been able to manage them so that you can build healthy boundaries?
Yeah, so one of the key things that I began to identify was that when I was really young, from about 8 years old, my mum would leave me with my sister to look after my sister. So she would cook before she left, because my mum was a nurse but single mother. So she would cook before she went to work, but she'd leave before we'd wake up and come in after we'd gone to bed. So during that time, I'd have to, even from a primary school into secondary school, I was basically always looking after my sister, but didn't have a parent around until we moved to Jamaica. And when we moved to Jamaica at the age of 14, my mum was always in the house. So that really changed our relationship. But then I had to come back to the UK at about the age of 18, and I was living by myself. And it wasn't until I had to have my operation that my mum came back from Jamaica to help look after me. But those 2 years by myself was really where I started to form these bad habits of always wanting people around, always overcommitting myself, always doing these things because I was by myself in this house. It was like a 4-bedroom house. There was another guy that was living there, but he was very much a loner. Like once he was in his room, he was in his room. And I'm super social. Like some people might find me annoying. Like if I'm in the house with you, I kind of want that conversation, or we're around each other. Let's watch something together. Let's do something together. I hate to live with people and I feel like we're not communicating. And yeah, so that's really where poor habits started. So I remember I would have like weekends where I would cook for everybody. And then sometimes we'd have like 50 people, 60 people show up and I'm doing cooking for everyone. And I say, guys, just bring a dish, but I'm doing the main big bits of cooking. Well, I learned that from being with my mum in previously, because she used to run a nursing home. So we learned how to cook big meals a lot. So I would always trying to do stuff to make myself look better, but really I just didn't want to be alone. And it wasn't until I think my first girlfriend at the time where I was just honest with her about it. But it was also the reality that, well, the real fear was being alone because you were left alone when you were younger. So I learned, I over these years, I've been going through that whole, all right, I need to address that. I need to deal with that issue. Like, how do I deal with the fear of being alone? And what really helped me was learning how to be comfortable with quiet. And it's been really difficult because, and now, you know, like now we're at home all the time. So sometimes I can be on the phone a lot, even though I've got my wife and my family and all this stuff, but it's in another space of just learning how to not have no phone, not have anything like that. And just having that reminder recently has been super helpful. Just putting your phone down, nothing, just go for a walk. You ain't got maybe you just got a key on you, just go for a walk and just have nothing, no technology, anything. That's been beautiful. And because I've been getting back on my skates again, well, it's raining today, but previously it's been sunny. I've been getting back on my skates again, going into the park, which has been quiet, and just been skating in the park, and it's just been really nice. So it's just been learning how to get back to that place where I appreciate quiet, but I also understood where the fear was coming from of being alone from when I was younger.
That's like such a game changer, is figuring out the root of the fear, because I think fear has so many different faces, right? And we can think it's one thing. We can say, yes, I'm a people pleaser, like Nick mentioned, or like I'm afraid of being alone. But it's like if we really dig deeper, realizing that when we're kids, we're learning this way about ourselves without any guidance or reflection on maybe that's not the best way for us at that time, right? And we take on those bits with us and we try to navigate the world through that specific lens. And that like really unlearning or learning how to be okay with the quiet is it's really hard, because our mind can be, and our thoughts can be our best friend or our worst enemy. And so really renewing our relationship with that quiet and that stillness. And it seems for you, physical activity is something that has helped. Is that true?
So I before we spoke, I mentioned the New Start principle.
Yeah.
Amazing principle that you can just apply to health. So it's New Start, NEWSTART. So it's nutrition, exercise, water, sunshine, temperance, air, rest, and trust in God. So it's like that whole exercise piece, because what you find is that so many people, you see it on Instagram and all this stuff, if you use those platforms, they'll emphasize one aspect and not the other. So some people might be like over spiritual, but they may not spend enough time in other areas of life, or they might be like super on nutrition, but they're not really on exercise or something like that. So exercise has been a big thing, and it's really hard for me because I've learned that the beauty of exercise is not so much in doing it, it's more in the consistency of it. Versus just, oh yeah, I've done my X amount of press ups, I'm good for the next 2 weeks. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
You know, little and often is better than like one big shot and then doing it 2-3 later. So like skating is the one thing that I do that really works my cardio and helps my legs because of my hip, to just maintain that health. And then I skate a lot. So like I'll go for like, I think this week I did like a 2 miles, but then I'll try and do like much longer. But when I was younger, I used to do stuff like, do you know Brixton? Yes, I'd go from like Brixton to Hyde Park, all around Victoria, then come back to Brixton because my sister used to live in Brixton. So I do stuff like that, and I skate with my brother-in-law because he's like an inline, he's an official like hockey skater, so he's like really good. So like,
I'm gonna come with you guys.
I know.
Yeah. Oh yeah, sorry, Nick. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I was when I first moved here, like almost like 20 years ago when I was in London, and I had a pair of inline skates. I thought I was the only one. And I was like just crazy boy inline. I'm grabbing on the back of buses and stuff. Yeah. It was the best time ever. I haven't been on inline skates in a while.
Yeah, you'd be surprised, man. There's like because I'm old school, so I use quads, but I can keep up most of the time with everyone. But it's because there's actual communities of skaters that meet all the time. So like there used to be a batch of guys that would meet every week in Stratford in the shopping centre. Don't know if you know Stratford shopping centre in East London. But yeah, they got like there's the big Whitgift, but then there's the Stratford shopping centre. Yeah. So like in the shopping centre, they would skate and like quads, they're dancing and stuff like that. So
I remember the midnight ones that you guys do, the quads. They get all the disco stuff going, and they go through London at night and stuff. It's pretty crazy with all the whistles.
I used to do all those with them, and then sometimes we do like speed skating. So it's like you're like running non-stop from like Marble Arch all the way down to Piccadilly and back up. So yeah, it'd be cool.
I think the thing to note here is that while people are in, we're all dealing with the same problem right now, which is that it's hard to, take action with certain things, and that can make us sit in fear. But like what I'm getting from you and if people are listening is just to set a few little goals, a few little actions that you could take, like making your bed to, eating something healthy. It doesn't have to be everything, but one thing, and going out for a piece of exercise. And what I've found is that if I take an action in a daily plan, then all of a sudden I'm not I'm not scared, so scared, you know, the fear kind of goes away because I feel like I'm accomplishing things. And I feel like when I'm in fear, it's because normally I've been a little bit laxed on my daily routine.
Oh my gosh, you hit me on the head. I mean, there's a beautiful text that Solomon wrote that says a just man falls 7 times, but he gets back up again. And the Japanese proverb writes it in a similar way. He says, you may fall 7 times, but you get up 8. And it's the principle of like not beating yourself up if you don't stick to something. But then there's beauty in having a routine as well. So like when you study, there's a fantastic book that I've read. It's this book here by Timothy Ferriss. It's called The Tribe of Mentors. And one of the key things he emphasizes over and over again in the book is that he basically goes, I think it's 100+ successful people he interviews. And the recurrent theme you find through all of them is that all of them have a morning routine that they are ritualistic about. Like they try their ever best to not bend on it. And the power in their success is in the fact that they have a morning routine that they just don't bend on. And what you find is that everyone's morning routine is different. But it's just unique and specific to you and what makes you happy and what gives you life to push through that day. But it's something that you're ritualistic about. So like one guy that I like listening to, I couldn't do his morning routine because I don't know if it'd be challenging, is Eric Thomas. So he's a powerful speaker, ET, yeah. And ET, he says that he tries his best to go to bed at 8:30, 9 o'clock every day, wakes up at 3 a.m. And then he goes through a period of devotion, connecting with his friend circle for accountability and stuff like that. But because my children are very young, sometimes that can be challenging currently, but it's just working around your schedule. So if you're in a place where you're by yourself, you might have more time. Maybe that works for you, maybe it doesn't. Or maybe you're somebody with family, find a schedule that works for you. But that's what I'm learning to do is I may hear somebody else's schedule and think, but before I used to think, I need to do what they do because they have success. But what I'm learning is, okay, that's fine. That works for them. But what works for me and makes me happy and what makes me comfortable, and be comfortable in the fact that I'm unique and different to my own self, you know, and don't worry about trying to be like somebody else, but just do what works for you.
Yeah, I think we can be more productive in 5 minutes of really honoring ourselves and our working style than 3 hours of what somebody else might see as a proper, ethical, whatever, productive working style, right?
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, and I think, so what are you doing while you're at home? Like, how are you making time for yourself? I know you have young kids.
Yes.
And how are you kind of taking a little bit of time to go back to your roots and anchor yourself?
All right, so every morning I'll do like a devotion in the Bible. So I'm reading some scripture, spending some time in prayer, and then what I also do is I don't know if I can show you, but let me see if I can show you. On this wall here, I've got like my goals. So I've got like monthly, today I want to achieve, month, year, quarter. So what I try and do is like every morning, I'll be like looking at my goals, trying to say, okay, cool. What do I need to do today to get to what I need to achieve in a month?
Right.
What do I need today to get to what I achieve in a quarter and in the year? So then I like to reflect upon my goals each day. And then I'm learning that because I have it written down, if I'm not able to do it today, then I can be like, all right, fine, I can't do it today. Let me just see what I can do tomorrow. So what really helps me is just morning devotion and prayer, some study in the scriptures, and then just, I shouldn't say visualization, because I used to have a vision board, but since I moved house, I don't have it up as much, but that's really helped me before in the past, which is like visualizing achieving things. And I remember why I'm mentioning that is because it was about 2020, so about 2 years ago, and I had lost a lot of contracts in my business at the time that I was running, and I went through a period where me and my wife, I lost all my money. I had about 30 grand worth of debt, and we eventually became homeless because the house I was living in, the family member I was living there, I had the house with, had asked me to move out because she wanted the house back to sell. Unfortunately, and then we went for a crazy family challenge where she didn't sell the house. Actually, she just wanted it back, but needed a way to get me and my family out. My wife was pregnant at the time, and then I had no money, so I had to move into the house of my mother-in-law. And I moved into 1 bedroom So I was like, me, my 2 kids, my wife was pregnant with our 3rd, and we were in 1 bedroom, and I had no money. I had 30 grand worth of debt, and was in a really bad place. And I remember we got so bad that we had to go to our local council. And while we were there, the council said, you're considered homeless based upon 4 counts. Like, you don't have the money to buy a house, you don't have the money for rent, you don't. So they had these different criteria that make you homeless. And then when they said that to me, it just hit me with a ton of bricks. But then when I went home, my wife basically sat me down and said, like, Laith, you need to just stop trying to do all of these things to make money, but just focus on what you're good at. And then we started to get back into this rhythm of doing like study, scripture, devotion, and things like that. And that morning ritual was really helpful to get me out of a place of potential deep depression, because I felt like a failure as a man. I felt like I couldn't achieve. I was trying to go and get work, but I couldn't get work. But it was also going back to that place of, all right, how can I just have something in my day that helps to kickstart me in a really good way? And that morning ritual was really helpful for me.
Laith, what would you say to any men that are listening right now, where, you know, you talk about the kind of pressures of being like a failure when you can't provide for your family, and these are these cultural expectations that are put on guys, especially when a real man has got to do this. And this is something that I've had a lot of, you know, conflict with over my life, that's saying that I'm a failure because I haven't achieved certain things.
Yeah.
What would you say to a guy, let's say, with mixing up your routine, with maybe bringing in some faith, maybe bringing in some meditation? Like, for instance, this morning, I did day 1 of a 30-day yoga challenge. Like,
right, cool, yeah.
like I'm a like 49-year-old ex-ice hockey player. I can barely touch my toes. Anyone tells me about yoga, I'm going to be, it's all fooey. But I tried it, you know, and I'm going to commit to it little bit by little bit. What would you say to any guys out there who might be feeling like they're stuck in a rut where, 5 minutes of meditation, that's healthy. You know, what would you say to them to try it, to at least give it a go?
I understand. So one of the key things that I remember feeling during that time, specifically when I'd lost a lot of money, I was in a lot of debt, is that you'll be very surprised that you just need to say to yourself, well, what's the worst that can happen? So I remember my wife said to me, you know, maybe, you know, you're just going to have to not do your business in a way you thought it would work. And I was so emotionally tied to the way I was running my business before. I thought I had an agency, I could do SEO and marketing and this and this and this and this and so many different things. And my wife was the first person to say to me, look, like what's the worst that happen if you just specialize in one thing and just be good at that one thing and be amazing at that one thing? And then we started to, then she would have these exercise programs. I don't know if you've ever heard of salsa, Zumba, stuff like that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then she was like, Laith, why don't you come out with me? So we had a really good friend, right? Her name is Monique, and I went to university with her, and we had a really good friend that she would go to salsa classes. And then she's also an amazing dancer. My wife was like, look, why don't you just come out with me? Because I was feeling so low in this time and stuff. She's like, look, we're going to get our mum to look after the children. You come out with me. Let's go and do salsa. But in my mind, right, when I saw guys doing salsa stuff, they would wear like, all their tops would be like low cut and super colorful and frilly. And I was like, I don't wear that stuff. So I was like, all right, do I have to wear it? Like, I was asking weird questions, yeah? So we went salsa, right? And it kind of hit me on the head. Like, I thought, wow, what's the worst that could happen? There's not going to be no one there I know. But when I went there were people I know. And then my friend was there. But what was funny enough that I did the salsa, and by the end of the night, not only was it like a really good workout, by the way, but it was just like, I felt like I felt happy, because I not felt that way in a while. So I felt so much better. Obviously, endorphins release. You've now worked, exercise, dopamine, like all of these things has just been going up in my body. But it was just the principle of what's the worst that can happen. Like my wife was like, man, you've got nothing to lose. Like we ain't got no money anyway. So this is free. So just come out and just have a good time and then see what can happen, you know? So, yeah.
I love that question. What's the worst that can happen? And if you complete it to the end, you realize the worst that can happen is really your own judgment of yourself.
That's it.
Because usually everyone's so stuck in their own narrative of themselves that nobody's really paying any attention to who's wearing what low-cut shirt or what their dancing is like, right?
You wear a low-cut shirt?
Yeah. What?
Did you wear?
Yeah, did
No,
you?
no. I had like standard normal clothes on from Next, and I was all good. Like, what was interesting is that like I'm finding that the biggest challenge was thinking other people are watching me. No one's watching. I love what you said there, Melissa. Like, no one was watching you. People are living their own lives, got their own problems to deal with. That no one ain't got no time to be dealing with your issues and your mess. Like, you know what I mean? So.
And I think what was said on the last webinar or whenever was that it's also not my business what anyone else is thinking of me. It's none of my business what somebody's perception of me is anyway. Like, I'm going to keep on doing what I'm doing because that's all I can really do.
I agree. I love that.
Yeah.
Laith, I think just kind of one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about is leadership.
Okay.
You know, because I know that you work with leadership. In this time, what would what are we looking for to leaders in our household, to leaders in our own self? What are the kind of traits and what are the kind of things that we need to look for?
Yeah, so there's a powerful book loads of books that you can read, but a powerful book called Developing a Leader Within You, and by John Maxwell. One of the key things he emphasizes that leadership is fundamentally influence, but people can only be influenced if they trust you. And at the heart of trust is honesty and authenticity. And in the time that we're living in is like people are really looking for people to be just authentically honest. Like, where are your shortcomings? What are the things that you really know and know well? What are the things that you don't know? And who do we need to work with to get there? So in the time that we're living in, like so many people, if we talk about in the home first, one of the beautiful things about this time, and I don't believe we'll get this again unless there is a Corona part 2, unfortunately, if we don't use the social distancing well, there may be like a second wave, as some may said. But let's just say this is the only time we get in the house in this time. This is a beautiful time for men to connect with their partners, their loved ones, extended family, women as well, more than we ever have. We've never really had this time where the whole world has slowed down, the whole world. You could push out there to try and get clients, but most people are thinking, man, let me just use this time to reconnect, to rejuvenate, to recalibrate. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, how can we use this time more than we ever have before? Well, one thing that I've learned to try and do is to do the things that I weren't doing before. So what I mean by that is, for let's say in my situation where I have a family, not everybody has family, but in my situation where I do have a family, how can I help my wife get personal time where she wasn't able to get that before? Because it takes me an hour and a half to get to work in the morning, roughly 3 hours a day. So how can I use those times where I'd be quote unquote traveling to maybe give her extra sleep, or to cook dinner where I wasn't cooking dinner before, or to look after the kids where I wasn't looking after the kids before? And that's a powerful thing in leadership. So if you can see where the other person may be failing or may have a challenge, and you step in and step up to the plate, those are the beautiful ways that you can begin to change the environment in your home. And you can change the way somebody feels about themselves and about the situation if you can help support them in the biggest challenges in their life. You know what I mean? And since I've been able to do that, it's been absolutely powerful. I think one of my friends, she's single. She doesn't have a family like I do. But what she does is she's a DJ. So she comes online every day or 2 days. So on one day, she does salsa classes online. And then another day, she does DJing. Like, she does like a whole soulful house set for about an hour and a half. And then another day she teaches salsa. But as a result of her going online and just sharing the thing that she loves, which is salsa and teaching dance, she's now had people all over the world connect. Whereas when she would do these classes in person, she wouldn't really get that much. But now she's getting like 20, 30, 40, 50 people plus online. And it's actually inspired her more to keep going. So she stepped up to lead in an area where she was feeling really, I don't know if I can do it. And my wife encouraged her to say, come on, you can do it. And now she stepped up to lead and say, look, how can I help people? How can I inspire people during this time? Even though she might be at home by herself, she's been able to just share one thing that she loves online and connect with people in new places. So it doesn't matter what situation you're in, I may not have the time to be online as much as I normally would, but what can I do in my home to change the environment of my home? And society is a combination of homes, single, alone, families, whatever situation you're in. If our homes are beautiful places, then society is going to be a beautiful place as well. So yeah, the better we can make our homes, I feel like that's where we should champion first.
Beautiful.
I don't even know. That's the perfect way to end everything. Is like, that's it. I love it.
Yeah, great.
Do you want to say thank you, Mel, and then we'll wrap it up?
Thank you. No, it's been really lovely to share this space with you and hear your insight and your wisdom. And it does come like just from a place of authenticity, and also really just, I think I'm going to say compassion, of just like accepting everyone where they're at and whatever stage of their life they're at, and making a space for them as well. And I think that's what we all need. And you are a leader in that, and leading by example. And that's really lovely to witness and be part of.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your support. And like with what we're doing with Hood Lessons, that's now why, I think that's why now, especially for myself and Andrew, why we're really specific about targeting men. Because during this time where some of the challenges we went through, we're seeing a lot of men are not seeing that, wow, guys, you can use this time beautifully, whether you're single, whether you're in families, no matter what situation you're at in your life. This is an amazing time for you to just connect with people that you may have not had that time before. And one of the biggest illnesses in the UK is loneliness. So how can we impact that? If men come together, form tribes together, build up one another, build up their homes, I feel like it can be powerful, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful, Laith, to be on this journey with you. And I thank you so much for coming on to What's On at Elephant and Castle live Facebook page. We're going to be doing a workshop. Mel is going to be designing a workshop around what we've talked about today for Thursday at 2 p.m. If you go to the What's On at Elephant Facebook page, there will be a link for you to come and join this workshop, which will be amazing. Again, Laith, thank you so much. And let's speak soon, okay?
All right, thank you guys. I really love it. Thank you.
All right. Bye everybody.
Bye-bye.